Great. I'm Mark Baratelli from the Daily City. We're a blog, and we've been around since 2007. So you've got today experts from PR, newspaper, blog, and radio, and so we'll just get going. This is very casual, very relaxed. We have a great panel. We're going to talk about media and getting press and what we want and what we don't want.
You know, from a radio perspective, and probably Erin as well, from a journalism perspective, you have two sides of the fence. You have the journalism story, and then you have the public affairs stories, what you as a business may want to communicate to the community. Journalism, you rarely get pitched a story because that's what we have reporters for. But a lot of times in radio, we are out searching for human interest stories or stories of events that might be happening in the community that sometimes you might be doing. And I think for radio, in the 30 years that I've been in broadcasting, the thing that has changed the most about radio is that it's no longer your hometown voice. Radio used to be owned and operated by people that you knew, and now it's owned and operated by corporations. So I can tell you that it's a lot more difficult to get your story to radio stations today, and I hope to maybe explore some of that tonight.
Well, I guess for us, what we're looking for in a story depends on what it is that we're working on that week. We have a variety of sections: arts and culture stories, food stories, news stories, and cover stories. And people are constantly pitching us all sorts of things. And a lot of times they don't really know what they're pitching or why they're pitching or whether they should even be pitching it to us. So I'll get a lot of calls from people saying, well, I have a kid in my school who did a really good thing and he got an award and we really want you to do a story. And, I have to tell them a lot, that's not a story for us, that's not the kind of thing we publish. So kind of get to know your media outlet, and I'll redirect them to say, like, the Orlando Business Journal that might do something, related to that, or to maybe Orlando Magazine that might do a profile of that student. But for a paper or a magazine like ours, we're looking for things that are a little bit edgier, things that are not being covered in or as much in the mainstream media, or that have different angles than what might be covered on your nightly news or in the Sentinel. We're looking for things that are a little bit subculture-y in Orlando. So we might be looking for stories about, art opening that isn't going to be happening at like City Arts Factory. Maybe something that's happening at like a bar gallery instead. We might be looking for something about the food trucks, for instance. Is something I've been covering a lot this week, and some of the local ordinances about how that are being passed in Orlando that would change the way food trucks have to do business in Orlando. And the reason we picked that story up is because it wasn't really being covered widely in the Sentinel or in other papers. So if you know of something or have a business or run something that you think is kind of edgy, not likely to get covered by the mainstream media, we might be a better outlet for you. And one of the things that I always tell people when they call me and they do have an idea that doesn't fit us is these are maybe the outlets you should be looking at. And I think one of the things that small businesses and nonprofits should be doing is kind of making a plan at the beginning of the year and looking at all the various media outlets in the area, kind of trying to figure out what their demographic might be and finding out if they mesh with your demographic. For instance, does WMFE cater to an audience of, I don't know what their demos are, but maybe you do, Jose, because you worked there for a long time. But I mean, they might be skew slightly older or slightly more male or slightly more female, and those are the demos that suit your business. You want to be pitching to them. The weekly might be younger. We might be looking for something edgier, a little more city-focused, so then you might be pitching to us. Orlando Business Journal is probably going to be older, more business-oriented, a little bit more straightforward news. You want to be pitching to them. So I always tell people to really get to know the publications in your town so you can kind of tighten up your pitches to those pubs.
I was going to say, and as the pitcher at the table, I think something too that is very important for my clients, all companies, is to really, really be candid with yourself and tell a story. Because you are open, I'm very excited for you, but that's not news. Mm-hmm. And I'm very candid as well in developing those stories. It is of interest. It is of human interest. And what does it matter? You always have to ask yourself, who cares? And I know that sounds harsh, but that will help you identify, ooh, this really is important. This is interesting. This is different. This is unique. Because you are is not unique. And that's something, a really strong tip that you might take before you even pick up the phone, send an email that your child just, received an award. We're so excited, but that's not going to be your best foot forward when pitching the media.
As far as the Daily City, I love the Orlando Business Journal. I love talking about new business, and I kind of, in my head, imagine we're like a section of the Orlando Business Journal that talks about new business, but it's like more approachable. So that's what I try to write about, and we're always looking for what's new and like something that, like kind of like you, like that hasn't been written before.